just have some thoughts that I need to record so I don't forget them. Thoughts about Neptune transits, and just the depth that this planet, which is really just this part of our psyche, this energy that we all have within us, the depth of it, that I guess as I go through and learn more about the planets and learn more about these energies that make up life, that make up the human consciousness, the more I see the depth in each one. And I'm really only starting with Neptune to really go really deep within it. And it's funny because Neptune is transiting my third house, which makes sense that there is so much I want to learn about in myself, this energy. And the struggles that have come with it have been so fucking hard. And I feel like no one talks about that. Everybody talks about Saturn and they talk about Pluto, that have their struggles, their challenges that you overcome, and the way that it is overcame, and the nature of those challenges. But nobody talks about the challenges of Neptune or even Uranus, which I don't really, Uranus is not even, well, I'll have to go into that and learn more about that. But with Neptune, there's so much potential for uneasiness and like an unsettled fears and anxieties. Really, anxieties I'm seeing as being anxiety and depression. I'm seeing being really related to Neptune, especially anxiety. The fear of the unknown, the fear of the future and the possibilities, and creating a story and creating the worst case scenario stories, and the multitude of potentials is so vast that what if this horrible thing happens, or this horrible thing, and it's like I'm really connecting that to anxiety, or any kind of anxiety condition that someone may have, or that obsessive compulsive, like anything that has to do with a misuse of the imagination. And depression too, but that's more of a distortion of reality in a sense, and more of it's like a little bit different. Like you're looking at yourself as if you are so disconnected. So honestly, depression is probably a distortion of the Neptune energy as well, because the core of the Neptune energy is connection, is being in the oneness of pure source energy and love and bliss and feeling good. And that's what we all want. And we escape because we are afraid of our life and that it's not going to feel good, or that it doesn't feel good, because we're not in that distortion. You're not making the changes in yourself to allow yourself to feel connected through the challenges, through the bouts of seemingly loneliness, through the human experience and all that brings. We are allowing ourselves to feel disconnected, and that is a distortion by definition, because it's not true. It's completely impossible, but it's also true in some way. Like, that's the thing with Neptune, is there is so many ways of looking at a thing, and it's not that the way you're looking at it is completely invalid. Like, there's a reason. that you are feeling disconnected, because you're choosing to disconnect yourself. And though you can never truly do that, you can't not exist. You can't not be, even if you died, you still exist. You are alive, and there's existence and there's non-existence. You are in existence, and you can't be in non-existence. You're already in existence. So that being said, I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm just thinking of, we're gonna pretty soon, in a few years, 3.5 years, be transiting into a new era of our Neptune, into a new sign, into a new house. And I'm just like, oh God. Now I'm just like, oh, I'm coming out of this thing that was such a challenge, that I'm finally, a 14-year transit, like year 10, I'm like starting to see. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I'm actually starting to see now. This is this. Oh my God, it took me 10 years. But there's so much wisdom that was gained. Like, there's so much value that I feel is attributed to this transit. Specifically being in the 3rd house and having to do with information and learning and the mind and consciousness, awareness, communication, connection, 3rd house, And now, like, for myself, it's going to be moving into the 4th house, and now I'm like, oh my God, like, this is the house that has to do with the family and the home, and I don't want to have problems in my fucking home, like in my family. I don't want to have to deal with any of that. And then I was thinking, why am I dooming and glooming it? Like, why am I, just because there's a transit happening that may create discomfort does not mean that you have to let it be a bad experience. Like, when you are aware of what is happening, then you don't ever have control, really. That's a big one. The surrendering to life, that you will never have full control over your life, but you have control over how you react, how you observe things. You have control over your body, your mind, and your emotions. You have the ability to control those things. You can't control what happens after that. But to some degree, when you are in control of your being, you are changing the way things unfold for the better, because you are more aware and can make better decisions and can be more easily informed of the energies that are happening, to actually prevent very negative, impactful things that life might throw at you when you're not paying attention. Because you're not paying attention, to get your attention, like illness, for example. Pretty common thing. A lot of people get sick. A lot more people nowadays get very sick, get deathly ill, get autoimmune disease, get cancer. It's so common now. And I think that these things there's so many factors for each thing, but when you aren't paying attention to the subtleties of your body and the messages that your body is getting, like, you aren't, by the time you find out what is happening, it's already, like, basically too late. Not too late in the fact that, like, I believe we can overcome things and yada yada, but it's already, you have to go all the way to even be aware, oh shit, like, oh, that's what happens, I guess, when you smoke cigarettes every day and then you're coughing and you're brushing it off and before you know it, you have lung cancer and you're got 6 months to live. That's an example of when you have control over over your awareness, when you have awareness and direction and directing your being with your mind, in your body, and in your ethereal body, in your emotional body, your aura, when you have an awareness, you can prevent these bigger challenges because you can see where the energy is leading you. You can kind of see what life is trying to bring out of you, and you can work with that before it has to be something so serious. And that this is like so intermingled with fears, and like nobody wants to have a near-death experience, you know? Nobody wants to have someone in their family have a near-death experience, or have a financial crisis, or something really serious that usually has to do around death, the potential for death, the potential, something so drastic that it makes you face whatever this area is that you are unaware of, whether you know it or not. There's always going to be things that we're unaware of to some degree, but the more we can try and the more effort continuously, consistently that we're putting into being in control of ourself in that holistic way, then the easier it is for you to go through these experiences that you're meant to experience. And the less hardcore I think that they will be. So I think that the way to, with these difficult transits, to not feel so afraid and so like uncertain of, oh my god, like now it's a whole other thing and something bad's gonna happen, like something bad's gonna happen, and there's fear because you don't know, and I'm not trying to like, you don't have to give your power away to any of these tools like astrology, any of these things. Like, you have, there's so much in your ability, like in your control, more than we think, but there's so much out of our control, and there needs to be this balance of understanding that and acceptance. And that's another big thing that I'm seeing when learning this Neptune energy, is having acceptance is so huge, because if we are living a life that we will not accept, we do not accept what's happening, we will check out and create something else that is not real and live there instead. And that is creating delusion and living in a fantasy, and it's not, it will always come back and bite you in the ass. Like, and whether you just escape in your mind and create these fragmented realities, or whether you escape through drugs or something else, a substance that's altering your mind in a different kind of way, or escape into work, or escape into this other thing, or like, unless you are holistically changing your life that you don't like for whatever reason, it's not making you feel good, which you can only do if you accept what it is, then you're not going to see the results you want, and it's only going to dig you a deeper hole. It's only going to create more confusion, more fog, less direction. You're going to feel lost and empty, and the complete opposite of what you actually wanted to begin with, which is to feel good and connected and blissful and joyful and love your life, you know, which is what Neptune at its core, in its light, that is what it's all about. So it's so funny because you see with these energies, they are the full spectrum. They are in the light expression. It is what it's at its core, and then the shadow expression is the distortion of that. It's what we as people do we're trying to get to that light. We're trying to get to that core, and we aren't actually going about it in this. And it's not to say that what you do is right or wrong. Like, it's all part of the experience as well. But like, if you want to have the least amount of trauma and problems and, you know, fears and hardcore experiences, if you want to try to minimize that, which I think we all do, then having the awareness of what we're doing and how we can impact our own life, that's the key. It's like we all been asleep, just going along with life. Whoa, oh my god, ow, that's horrible. Oh, this is great. Oh my god, just fucking blowing around, like in the water, just like getting pushed around. If you want to direct your life, then you can. You know, there's nothing saying like, oh well, you have no control over your life, so you're just gonna have to get hit and almost drowned, and maybe you ride a wave one time, but no guarantee because you don't even have a surfboard. You're literally just out there, just getting flopped around. You can do that, but like, why do you want to do that? You know. When you can direct your life, you're not going to be able to change the ocean. You know, in this theoretical example, you can't control the freaking ocean. You can't. It is a wild, chaotic force of nature. But you can learn to swim. You can get a surfboard. You can get a paddleboard. You can get a life jacket if you want. You can get goggles and the scuba gear and you can move within the ocean of life by being aware, and you read the patterns and you know, okay, is it a day to surf or is it a day to paddleboard? Is it like, what do I need today? What are the tools that I need to navigate these waters today or this week or whatever is being thrown at me? Maybe we're in a storm and I need a freaking boat. Like, but you have control over what you are showing up to life with. And that, I think, it needs to be the focus. And when we can focus on those, creating those mechanisms, those tools, then you really don't have fear. It's not that you never feel fear. Like, if you've ever, like, I'm pretty sure that the pro surfers who go out there on those giant ass waves that would literally could destroy you, could snap your neck, like, pretty sure that they have a tinge of fear, a healthy fear. And any person who's ever been in the ocean, I think, has a healthy respect / fear, which I think the fear instills respect, in a sense, for the ocean's capabilities. But there needs to be a level of understanding and knowing your own limits, in a way, knowing that, do you have the proper tools to manage what comes, and then at the same time knowing that you also have to surrender to the fact that anything could happen at any time. A freak thing could happen at any time, and you need to be okay with that, because that is the whole, like, that is living life fully. You can't run from death. Like, you can't hide away and expect to live a fulfilled life because you're afraid that some crazy thing's going to happen, because some crazy thing is going to happen anyways and you're still going to die eventually. So there's just all these things that I feel like are necessary to properly move through this type of energy. that Neptune represents, which is very interesting to me. It's a very powerful, beautiful, chaotic, feminine, wild energy. I really think that relating it to the ocean, Neptune obviously is like the god of the sea, so it makes sense. That is a really great example for the energy. It's unpredictable, but also predictable in its unpredictability, because you know that it is, you kind of already know what to expect in that way. And there is always that fear, like, we don't always know what is lurking beneath the surface. We don't really know. You have to surrender. Just to get in the ocean, there has to be a level of surrender. Because no matter how good a swimmer you are, and this is not even to scare anybody, because no matter how good a swimmer you are, you could still die. You get in the ocean, you could still die from something. You could die from a crazy wave, a short break situation, accidentally fall off your board. Like, anything could happen. But at the same time, with Neptune, it's about knowing that when you die, you don't actually even really die. So there's really nothing to be afraid of in that sense. And that's the only way that you can really fully surrender, I believe, to life, is by knowing that death is just another layer in the ethereal waters. And you still exist, and life will go on, and your life, your soul will live on. And then there's that mystery there, you know, which is the mystery that you need to surrender to, because it's all love. Like, it's all in your best interest. And we, because we're humans and we love to create mental fear propaganda to our own mind, to keep us safe, to keep us alive, to keep us in this experience as long as possible. It's part of our design, so that we don't jump off a freaking cliff because we think it'd be fun. Like, it's to give us a common sense of, try not to get yourself killed so that you can have this experience as long as possible, or so you can live out the purpose of this experience. But beyond that, the irrational, it's hard to say irrational because, like, it's not really irrational, you know, it's a possibility. Always that possibility. But are you letting it take away from your life? I think is the big thing. If your fear of death, for example, because that's really underneath, I think, all fear. What else is there, you know? Maybe there's a couple other things. The fear is worse than death. But either death of you or a family member or something like that, or torture or something, whatever. Where was I going with that? Damn it, I don't even know where I fucking lost my train of thought. But yeah. Damn it, I lost my train of thought. How very Neptunian of me. Yeah, it's just really interesting. I'm learning a lot about myself, about my own struggles. I guess it's we're going to be going to this next Neptune phase and this next transit when it moves into a different sign, a different house. And I don't want to be caught off guard this time. Like, I want to be aware. I want to have tools. I want it to be a beautiful unfolding and be in the core light expression of Neptune. You know, I don't want to be caught out there with nothing, like caught out in the ocean, just like treading water, like hoping for the best, you know. because that's also a distorted Neptune thing as well, is like a false optimism in the sense where it's denial of the truth that there is indeed challenge and suffering, and we cannot negate that, nor should we want to, because from that breeds amazing things. And that's a whole nother thing too, where the planets start to interact and jump off of each other. You know, when you're looking at, okay, well, how do you move through a hard thing? It's like, okay, well, we can look at some other planets as well that are going to help solidify our ability to move through hard things, like Mars and Saturn and Pluto, and things that really solidify us. But each planet does have a solidifying factor to it. It's like the planet, I'm seeing it like you have the energy that is represented by a planet, okay? It's energy within us. We're categorizing it to make sense of it, just like with the archetypes, how we categorize the archetype to make sense of humanity and ourself and all of that. Each planet or energy has its self in its integral form, where it is solidified, where it is, I'm just seeing it as like its form that is together and solid and integral and in its strength, in its power, in its like full expression in its power. And then there's ways in which, because of our lack of self-direction and ability to control the things that we can control, and to lead the things that we can lead within ourselves, because of our lack of that in society and just in our evolution, a lot of these planets, these parts of our psyche, are weak and falling apart and flimsy and disintegrated, and we have to do the work to self-examine and to create that integrity again in that energy. And we're all having to do that. Every person. And like, can you imagine what the world would be like if every person was working on themselves in that way? It would be fucking so different. Which is obviously like, yeah, that's the thing. And you don't have to use astrology to do that. You don't have to know astrology, but it sure freaking helps. Like, it's helped me a lot, and maybe that's just because the way that I perceive things, having something else that I'm using as a tool to work with the energy is really helpful for me. I'm able to see myself outside of myself. And so I can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's that. Okay. Whereas sometimes I can get lost in my own chaotic waters that are really chaotic, that I can't see the truth. Anyways, that's my own personal thing, and that's reflected in my own astrology too, so it's really just like, it's freaking funny to me. Like, it makes so much sense, and it's fun. It's honestly fun. There's like, all these cars are white in front of me, like every car. Yeah. So I'm still figuring out how to create those tools, those surfboards and life vests and rafts and boats, so that I can navigate my life and hopefully help express that to others as well. Because I'm trying to know. I'm not trying to go into this next phase looking stupid. Like, hell no. Especially when it's focused around something that, you know, I have a family now. Maybe if I didn't have a family, or if this was a transit that happened when I was a child and didn't have responsibility over my home and family, it would maybe be different. Like Neptune was transiting my second house when I was a kid, before I was 14. But who cares, because like, which has to do with money. So it's like, I don't, like, who cares? It has to do with money. Like, I was a kid, like, I didn't know anything about anything, you know, so there was no sense of responsibility over that part of myself, you know. I was just blown in the wind, taking life, like, just completely open and learning, and like reacted based on my own energies of who I am. But this is different now, though, you know, as you're an adult, as you are learning about yourself from a new perspective, as you have a family and have other people you're responsible for, it's really helpful to have kind of an upper hand in being able to see the trends, because we've become so disconnected from the cycles of the universe where it's not obvious. And like I said before, when the cycles are not obvious, they seem like they come out of nowhere and kick you on your ass. But if you knew how to read the energy within your body, in nature, in the world, in the collective, in universally, then you would not be caught off guard, and you'd be able to prepare, and you would have an awareness that's going to help you. So I will be continuing my studies. I'm hoping to have an actual course available that goes into this by the end of this year. I'm still like I still feel like I'm in it, you know? But I also think that is a good time to do that, to do a course, and it helps me to see also through other people's eyes as well. I think it's helpful for anybody to be able to see through the eyes of those around them, and you get that reflection. So it's really interesting. Anyways, good luck out there. If you are a fellow Capricorn rising, especially from around my age, with your Saturn in Pisces, y'all, like, which honestly, it's funny to me because I think a lot of my friends, maybe you're watching this, are Capricorn risings around my age, and it's really interesting to me. Like, and I'm just speaking because I can completely relate it to myself, because it's me too. It's fucking been really hard and really confusing. And when we're looking at Neptune in the third house, and having Neptune also natally in our first house, that shit is confusing. Life has been really weird, and yeah. But it's gotten a lot better. Anyways, now I'm just rambling. Anyway, okay, thanks for listening. Bye.